The Washington Post tonight reporting on conversations the president had with Vladimir Putin and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The Post headline, Putin and Hungary's Orban helped sour Trump on Ukraine. According to the report, which cites current and former U.S. officials, the conversations reinforced President Trump's perception of corruption in Ukraine. The Post reports that neither Orban nor Putin specifically encouraged the president to see Ukraine as a source of dirt on Joe Biden, nor did they describe Kiev as complicit in that conspiracy theory that he latched onto about the 2016 election. However, the Post reports that their disparaging descriptions did reinforce the president's perceptions of Ukraine to the dismay of some of his advisors. Quoting now from the Washington Post, quote, "Over time, you just see a wearing down of defenses," a former White House official said, describing the struggle to contest the influence of Giuliani, Putin, and Orban. And just pause a minute to consider the implications. The leader of the one country that no president before this one has ever fully trusted was telling this president not to trust Ukraine, a country that Russia seeks to dominate. Joining us now is the Post's John Hudson, who shares a byline on the story. So, John, what exactly happened in these conversations between President Trump, Putin, and Orban? And I understand at least one of the conversations with Orban was face-to-face in the White House, and there wasn't anyone else present. Is that right?
That's right. U.S. officials described to the Post an alarming sort of evolution in President Trump's view of Zelensky and Ukrainian officials in general. Now, it started out a little bit positive. They had a congratulatory phone call, and U.S. officials were comfortable with the direction things were going, and then things turned sour. And so one conversation, for instance, he had with Vladimir Putin, Trump actually broached the subject of Zelensky and said, "What do you think about him?" And Putin said, according to a Western official familiar with the conversation, that this is someone who's a comedian, and this is somebody who is linked to Ukrainian corrupt oligarchs. He was speaking of Kolomoisky at this point. This was somebody who has a long time oppositional and sort of tiff with Putin over a long period of time. And so these conversations added to each other and sort of reinforced Trump's view already that Ukrainian officials are corrupt. Ukrainian officials did not want him to win the 2016 election. And that was a view that was very difficult for U.S. officials to combat and counteract, who saw Ukraine as a country that they wanted to ally with and strengthen with as it was fending off Russian-backed separatists in the East.
Why is income inequality so important to you?
It's huge. It's the game changer that we're living in right now. It's because we're creating a super class so far above the vast majority of people that they don't share the same planet anymore. 47% of American people can't cope with a $400 emergency.
Explain that, though, when you said don't share the same planet. I don't think people get that.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't think that the people who are on their private jets or living in incredible riches can even begin to digest what it means to not have $400 for an emergency. I mean, that's just couch cushion money for them. So we've stopped sharing the same reality. We don't stand in line with everybody else. We don't wait patiently like everybody else. We've sort of short-circuited all the social processes and created kind of parallel universe that we live in. And that is not good for solidarity. It's not good for opportunity. We've eroded all the paths to the American dream that my grandfather and great-uncle took.
Do you maintain a limited number of troops in Syria?
Well, we don't think it's going to be necessary. I don't want to leave troops there. It's very dangerous for, we had 28 troops as it turned out. People said 50, it was 28. And you had an army on both sides of those troops. Those troops would have been wiped out. I don't think it's necessary, other than that we secured the oil. It's in a little different section, but we just secured the oil. And the other region where we've been asked by Israel and Jordan to leave a small number of troops is a totally different section of Syria near Jordan and close to Israel. And that's a totally different section. That's a totally different mindset. So we have a small group there, and we've secured the oil. Other than that, there's no reason for it, in our opinion. And again, the Kurds are going to be watching. We're working with the Kurds. We have a good relationship with the Kurds. But we never agreed to protect the Kurds. We fought with them for 3.5 to 4 years. We never agreed to protect the Kurds for the rest of their lives. Remember this, when Iraq was fighting the Kurds, everybody thought we were going to fight with the Kurds. I said, well, it's a little strange that we're fighting with the Kurds when we just spent $4 trillion on Iraq and now we're going to be fighting Iraq. So what I did is I said, we're not going to take a position. Let them fight themselves. I thought the Kurds would do very well. Everyone said, oh, the Kurds will do very well. Well, Iraq moved in and the Kurds left. They didn't fight because they didn't have us to fight with. A lot of people are good when they fight with us. You know, when you have $10 billion worth of airplanes shooting 10 miles in front of your line, it's much easier to fight. But with that, they were a good help, but we were a great help to them too. They were fighting ISIS. You know, they hated ISIS. So they were fighting ISIS. But we never agreed. Where is an agreement that said we have to stay in the Middle East for the rest of humanity, for the rest of civilization, to protect the Kurds? It never said that. And we have protected them. We've taken very good care of them.
News cycles are out. Shock cycles are in. That is what we're experiencing day in, day out. Another shock, another scandal, another period of outrage, and then the same thing all over again. One day, President Trump decides he's going to award himself a rich government contract. His acting chief of staff comes out and tells the press why it's a great idea. And then Trump suddenly reverses himself and blames the media for making it an issue. Shock on top of shock on top of shock. Now, Trump's been promoting debunked conspiracy theories this week. He's been calling the legal impeachment process a coup. Remember that letter he sent to the Turkish president that came out this week? It seemed so informal, some reporters thought it was a hoax. These aren't news cycles, not really. These are shock cycles. One set of talking heads says they're stunned, horrified, bewildered. Then another set of talking heads says the rest of us are taking it all too seriously. There's shock about the shock, and then there's shock about the shock about the shock, and then Trump delivers another shock. He calls Nancy Pelosi crazy, or he accuses her of hating America. Or Mick Mulvaney holds a presser and confirms a quid pro quo, then says get over it, then says that's not what he said. Boom, boom, boom. He's getting basic facts wrong about American forces in harm's way. He's calling James Mattis the world's most overrated general. And his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is under federal investigation with new details every day. Shock, shock, shock. The challenge, I think, for all of us is to break out of these shock cycles and make sure the news is still front and center. Yes, as citizens, we have to retain our capacity to be shocked. But more importantly, we have to recognize why these stories are stunning. And that's where journalists come in. That's why the news cycle is still essential. A lot of folks these days just hear the shock and outrage, and they miss the why. They miss the unconstitutionality of what's going on. They miss the context. They come away thinking it's just a partisan food fight. But so much of this is nonpartisan. It's constitutional. The big story continues to be abuse of power. And aides like Mick Mulvaney, they're left just to complain about the press.
You were asked by Jonathan Karl, you've described a quid pro quo, and you said that happens all the time.
And reporters will use their language all the time. So my language never said quid pro quo. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Go back and look at that list of 3 things. What was I talking about? Things that it was legitimate for the president to do.
Once again, the White House telling us not to believe what we see and what we hear. That's been the through line for the past few years, but it doesn't mean it's not shocking. It is still shocking.
You don't think I get enough promotion? I get more promotion.
¿Usted no cree que yo recibo suficiente publicidad? Recibo más publicidad que cualquier ser humano que jamás haya vivido. Creo que lo puedo decir con confianza. Creo que recibo más publicidad que cualquier ser humano que jamás haya vivido. Alguna buena, otra mala. Los que me quieren me dan solo buena, los que no me quieren me dan solo mala. Pero así es la vida. Pero no necesito publicidad, no necesito publicidad.
Como lo oyen, el presidente Trump asegura que él es quien más publicidad recibe, que recibe más publicidad que cualquier ser humano que jamás haya vivido. Lo dijo él.
A tornado touching down overnight in Dallas. See how ominous it looks, backlit by lightning strikes here. Officials warn of trees and power lines down in northern Dallas, along with debris. 3 injuries reported so far. Emergency officials asking residents to stay indoors. You can hear the alarms blaring in the background there and see this Home Depot crushed by the tornado. The power company says over 100,000 customers are still in the dark.